Fearless, Chapter 14, Plaguey Little Wharf Rats. A hush fell over the room as the man turned around in his seat, but the face that stared back was not the face of their father. He wore a black patch over one eye, and his other good eye was brown. He had a big, blotchy nose and badly blackened teeth. This man was definitely not Nicholas Beale. "Forgive us, sir," Diggory pleaded as the man stared back at them. "We mistook you for our father." An awkward silence followed as all eyes turned on the three. "A drink to all the sons I never knew I had," the man shouted. "Raise your tankards, mate, and raise 'em high." The room erupted into laughter and conversations resumed, along with the clatter of mugs and smoke billowing all around them. Cubby was so overcome with disappointment that he took no notice of where he was going. He stumbled over Fishbone and fell onto a game of tabletop ninepins. He landed with a crash on the hard stone floor. "Watch out! You've spoiled our game!" a sailor shouted. Fishbone barked, and Cubby grabbed hold of the table. "The devil take you!" hollered another man. "Out with you now, and take your mangy mutt with you!" the burly innkeeper, who was carrying a tray full of mugs, ordered. "Go on, get out!" But Diggory didn't move. "We were just looking for—" The innkeeper put down his tray and grabbed Diggory by his collar. "Take your search back out to the gutter where you came from." He lifted him up off his feet and began to shake him. "Leave the boy be now," a voice interrupted. Diggory saw a handsome man standing beside them. He was not dressed like a seaman, but rather like a gentleman, in a waistcoat made of fine fabric, with buttons of pewter. And though no wig covered his long dark hair, the silver buckles on his good leather boots told that he was a man of means. "You really don't want to bother with this now, do you?" the gentleman said to the innkeeper. "Not when you've a customer wishing to buy a round for the whole house." "The whole house?" the innkeeper repeated, dropping Diggory to the floor. The gentleman nodded. "Refill every tankard and put it on my bill," he ordered. As the innkeeper hurried off to the bar, the stranger offered Diggory his hand. It was not the weather-beaten grip of a seaman, but the soft hand of a man whose palms had not been toughened from the living he made. Nor did the stranger carry the stink of his trade upon his clothes, but instead smelled of deep earthen spices. But there was something else about the man that set him apart. His voice was as rich and smooth as Devon cream, and a playful glint danced in his fierce black eyes, a playfulness not usually found in men who struggle with the sea for their very survival. "Does your friend here have a name?" The stranger held out his hand to the dog, who was still cowering under the table. "He's Fishbone," Diggory said. The stranger laughed heartily. "It suits him." Diggory was surprised to see that Fishbone, as if recognizing a friend, cautiously came forward and licked the gentleman's hand. "And your father? I take it he's a seaman?" the stranger said. "Aye, sir, on the crew of the Flying Cloud." Diggory rushed to tell all that had happened, how news had come that their father's ship had wrecked at Yarmouth, how Aunt Alice struggled to feed them, and how she told Diggory to keep going should his father be lost. "So you see, sir," Diggory concluded, "we must find our father right away, for we've nowhere to live until we find him." The stranger rose from his seat and rapped on a mug with his spoon. "Who here knows of the Flying Cloud and her crew?" he called out. All talking in the room ceased, and only the clatter of mugs on tabletops could be heard. "I do, sir," said a scar-faced sailor, "for she was one of our own, a Plymouth ship she was." "Were there any survivors?" the gentleman asked. "Nay, sir, not a one," another sailor answered sadly. "I lost me own brother in that wreck, took the captain and his whole crew down." Diggory saw the panic in Cubby's eyes. "Could there be a mistake?" Diggory asked. "Could someone have survived?" "Will Stillwagon was there," said another sailor. "He was in Yarmouth the night the Flying Cloud went down. He said the storm was so fierce that she slammed right into the rocks, splitting her hull clean open. They never had a chance." The chatter and clatter rose once again. "Henry!" a man called from across the room. "Wait in another for a game of whist." The gentleman was hustled along to the card table as Diggory and Cubby, dumbfounded by the news, were pushed through the crowded room to the door, with Fishbone following behind. Once outside, the big muscled innkeeper appeared in the doorway, wielding a heather broom like a weapon. "Off with you now, you plaguey little wharf rats," he shouted, bringing his stiff broom down on their heads, a bristle just missing Diggory's eye. Fishbone caught it on the nose and yelped. "I'll give you worse next time," the man threatened. Diggory grabbed hold of Cubby's arm as they scrambled down the street without looking back. They ducked into an alley and raced through a crowded crosswalk. They ran under the bloodied heads of sheep that hung from a butcher's awning and past baskets and crates filled with oysters and crabs. They darted up one muddied street and down another. Only when Diggory tripped on a sleeping piglet did they finally stop. Cubby collapsed on a doorstep to catch his breath as the piglet went squealing loudly down the alley, and Diggory sank down beside him. Neither spoke for a long while. "Diggory," Cubby finally whispered, "I won't ever get my whistle from the other side of the world, will I?" Diggory hung his head and didn't answer. "But Father promised me," Cubby said, as his eyes filling with tears. Diggory thought of Aunt Alice and how she'd said that promises were like pie crust and so easily broken. How right she had been! For hadn't their own mother promised to love them forever? Hadn't their father given them his word that he'd return? Even Aunt Alice had gone back on her promise to their father to look out for them. A gull screeched from a nearby rooftop. A sheet of canvas snapped in the breeze beside a sail shop door. Diggory felt his own heart, brittle and broken, snapping into pieces. The hard Plymouth breeze stung his cheeks as it whipped across his face. Cubby's little chest heaved with sobs he could no longer hold in. As Diggory wrapped his arms around him, the two rocked back and forth. As they rocked, Diggory heard Aunt Alice's words in his head. "If you do not find your father, keep on going." But where could they go? And who could they turn to for help? Diggory could feel the fear rising inside him like a wave swelling up and threatening to knock him down.